Hello, shamanettes, and welcome to The Beauty Shaman. So today, by popular demand, I have Ben Fuchs from Truth Treatment Skincare back on The Beauty Shaman. He is going to be a regular. Every month you're going to hear from him. He is like one of my all-time favorite people to talk to about skincare and to get the truth about skincare. And for those of you who don't know Ben, he is the creator of Truth Treatment Skincare, registered pharmacist, nutritionist, and skincare chemist for the past 35 years. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Can I be a shamanette?
You can. You're a shamanette. You're officially a shamanette.
Thank you. I love that. It's so cute. Shamanettes.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start off today and we're going to talk about science washing of skincare and the way forward for the savvy consumer. So science washing is a term that's kind of being brandished around a little bit. And so I wanted to break that down just a bit before we start so that everybody knows what we're talking about here. But Dr. Dennis Gross broke it down like this. He said, science washing is inaccurately using science to prove trends for marketing purposes with the intent to encourage purchasing. In other words, it's lying about marketing in order to get you someone to buy your product. And, you know, everybody knows this, right? And Ben, you're very, very well aware of this. And it's saying, hey, use this product and in 2 weeks, you'll have no wrinkles and you'll be 12, right? So, but it's used very liberally, right? There's tons of science washing going on. So what I want to do is pose this question to you. And this is what the whole interview is going to be about. Is how can we make the decisions on our skincare products when all of this is going on? What barometers can we use to make good choices? And so to start off with, I want to have you talk about your view about science washing and how you have overcome this. Because I feel like you are one of the most, if not the most, right? I mean, I'm a big fan, right? Who is honest, right? And your products work. And so how do you overcome this? Because there's such a huge temptation, right?
Yeah.
In skincare lines to lie.
You know, I never heard that term. I haven't, I heard the term. I mean, I heard it when we talked previously. I heard it from you. But before that, I hadn't heard the term, but it's a great term.
It is, yeah.
I've always thought when I'm formulating skincare products that we have to get back to the basics.
Right.
And not a lot of basics. There's just a few things that you have to do. And mostly, you have to focus on the skin. And we do this in terms of our jargon, but we don't do it in terms of how we treat the skin. And that is, we have to understand the skin's nature as an organ of the body. Right. Every single person on planet Earth has either heard or said, the skin is the body's largest
organ. Yes.
Right. So we all give lip service to the idea of the skin as an organ, but we don't treat it as such. So when you treat the skin, you want to think of treating the skin. You want to think of treating the skin like you treat any other organ of the body. So if you want to have a healthy heart, you want to have a healthy liver, you want to have healthy intestines, you want to have a healthy organ inside the body, what do you have to do? You have to feed it. You have to nourish it. You have to give it a certain menu of nutrients. Now, there's zillions of different foods that you can eat, but the parts of the foods that are going to actually improve the health of the organs of the body are called nutrients.
Right.
And those nutrients are there's not a lot of them. Right. There's a very narrow menu. So let's break it down a little even further and talk about what the organs of the body, the liver, the spleen, the intestines, the heart are made up of. They're made up of little units, little living entities called cells. So the health of the organs of the body internally, and by extension, the functionality of the organs of the body internally are dependent on nourishment, not the nourishment of foods, but the nourishment of nutrients, vitamins, fatty acids, amino acids, and minerals, as well as larger nutrients like peptides and saccharides. But that's not a lot of stuff. In fact, the menu that a cell eats from, the nutrients that a cell, a liver cell, a heart cell, an intestinal cell, a lung cell, a spleen cell, the menu that this cell eats from is very, very narrow. And it's a menu that has been selected for over the course of billions of years. In other words, your liver cell in the year 2022, Suzanne, is eating the same foods that cells have been eating, liver cells have been eating, heart cells have been eating, lung cells have been eating for billions of years. It's a very narrow and select menu. That's inside the body. Well, the outside of the body is the same thing. The skin's the body's largest organ. It's an organ, just like your spleen or your liver or your intestine. And the cells of the skin have a very narrow menu of nutrients, like the cells of the intestine and any other organ in the body have a very narrow menu of nutrients that they eat from, that they use. The vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids, and then the fatty acids, and then larger nutrients like peptides and saccharides. It's the same thing. Now, that means that if you want to have healthy, beautiful skin, you don't need to have the latest ingredient from the rainforest. You don't need to have the latest peptide that was synthesized in a laboratory. You just need the basics. Now, for the skin, like any other organ of the body, nourishment comes through the blood. So skin cells and skin beauty are ultimately going to be the health of the skin cell, and ultimately the beauty of the skin, which is a reflection of the health of the skin cell, is ultimately going to be determined by what's in the bloodstream, the kind of nutrients that you're getting into the bloodstream by virtue of the kinds of foods that you're eating. However, with the skin, we have something special that distinguishes it as an organ from the liver and the spleen and the intestine. What is that? Skin's on the outside of the body. So you can't feed the liver, we'll use the liver as an example, you can't feed the liver from the outside in. You have to feed the liver from the inside out. You got to eat to get to the liver. But with the skin, we have access in a way that we don't with the internal organs of the body, and that's from the top down. You can't do that with any other organ of the body, okay? So you can feed the skin from the top down. You can give the skin nutrition from the top down, and that's all you need to do. The cells of the body, and by extension, the organs of the body, whether it's the skin on the outside or the liver on the inside or any other organ of the body, the health, the beauty, the functionality, and on terms of the skin, the beauty are determined by nutrition, by nourishment. And that nutrition and that nourishment are determined from an evolutionary perspective in a very narrow frame. There's not a lot of nutrients. There's about 80 different nutrients. Now, in the skin, you can go from the outside in, and that creates a different issue, because you see, the cells of the skin are located underneath. And that means if you're going to get to the skin cell from the outside in, you've got to go through the surface of the skin. This is what skincare misses. Most skincare products are designed to sit on the surface of the skin. And in fact, we're conditioned to believe that a skincare product is effective by how it feels, right, or how it looks after we put the product on. That's all well and good, but that's the booby products. If you really want to have beautiful skin, you've got to have the active ingredients in your product have to take time to migrate down to the cell, to interact with the cell, to somehow initiate or activate certain behaviors out of that cell. And that takes a certain amount of time. 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. There's a certain amount of time that's going to take to occur. So to answer your question about science washing, it's very simple. You feed the skin, or you have beautiful skin by feeding the skin cells, and there's not a lot of nutrients that do it. Number one, you do it the same way you do it with any other part of the body, by good food and good supplements, quality food and quality supplements. And from the top down, you figure out what are the nutrients that are going to be able to take this journey down, and what are the ingredients that you could put in your skincare product, you should look for in your skincare product, that will carry those nutrients down through the skin and then hit the skin cell and then somehow activate the skin cell. Now, there's a second aspect to good health. We talk about nutrition, and that's very important. But there's a second aspect to good health. There's a second way that you make your heart strong. There's a second way that you make your liver strong, perform strong. There's a second way that you make your connective tissue and your skeletal system and your muscular system strong, in addition to food. And what is that? You exercise. Mm-hmm. So it's this combination of exercise and nutrition that makes the internal part of your body strong. Right. But guess what? The skin is an organ. Like we say, the skin is the body's largest organ. So if exercise and nutrition are important for making your heart healthy, and they're important for making your muscular skeletal system healthy, and they're important for making your liver healthy and other parts of your body healthy, they're going to be important for the skin as well. We talked about nourishment. Well, there's a way to exercise the skin too. So what is exercise? Exercise is putting a stressor on the body, and then the body responds by growing. This is a very interesting mechanism, actually, when you think about it. It doesn't happen with inanimate objects. It only happens with life. with living systems, whether you're talking about a plant or whether you're talking about a human body or whether you're talking about an organ of the body, these systems respond to stress by growing. As long as there's nutrition present and as long as the stress is not overstress, it's balanced with rest, this idea of stress stimulating or improving or activating a healthy system can be leveraged not only on the inside of the body, but on the outside of the body too. So let's break down the stress response. Well, what happens when you stress, say, your heart? Okay? What happens when you stress your heart is you make your heart cells work really hard and they start to release chemicals. Some of these chemicals are low pH, they're acid chemicals. And this is one of the things that happens when we stress. And this is why they tell you, sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, you don't want acid forming foods, or cancer loves acid. And there's this idea in the culture, which you're calling science washing, I call memes. And there's these memes in the culture, or these science washing in the culture that says you don't want a lot of acid inside your body. And to a certain extent, that's right. But what they're missing is acid, which is a waste product and associated with toxicity, also turns on growth. Acid, which is and think about it, this is a very interesting mechanism. The body's under stress, so it produces the cells are working really hard. They produce lots of waste products. Those waste products are acidic. And the body's so beautiful, and the living system is so beautiful that acid, which is signals stress, tells the body it's got to get stronger in order to handle the stress. This is why when you put stress on your muscles get bigger. Mm-hmm. And we all know you're an exercise person. You know that when you're running, I know you like to jog, right? When you're running and you're jogging, all of a sudden you're going to start to feel a burn in your legs, right? You feel the burn. That burn is a sign that your muscles are working really hard, and that burn is not a fire. That burn is acid, specifically lactic acid, and that lactic acid is almost like a growth hormone. It tells the muscles, hey, there's a lot of stress going on. We got to get bigger and we got to get stronger so we can handle that stress. Well, right. Guess what? That same acid that turns on the growth of your muscles can be used on the surface of your skin to give you the same response. And just like when you run and you feel a burn on your legs and your legs get stronger, you can do that on your skin. And that's where alpha hydroxy acids and low pH acidic ingredients come in. Low pH and acidic ingredients placed on the surface of the skin actually signal, and how they do that is remarkably, is fascinating how they do it, but they signal to the skin cells, let's get more collagen. Let's get more natural moisture factors. Let's start dividing. Let's get active. Let's work. And so the combination of exercising the skin by putting acids on the surface of the skin and then feeding the skin specific nutrients, analogous to what you have to do inside the body, is all you need for beautiful skin. You don't need to have the latest and greatest peptide. You don't need to have the latest and greatest a botanical extract from the rainforest. You don't need the latest fungal or mushroom or whatever kind of things that we hear about that people are always talking about in terms of ingredients. You don't need those. You just need the basics. You need good nutrition. You need exercise in terms of ingredients. You need alpha hydroxy acids on the surface of the skin and a couple of nutrients that are standout nutrients in terms of their ability to migrate from the surface of the skin to the lower levels, and in terms of being able to activate and nourish skin cells from the outside in, and that's vitamin A in its retinol or retinoic acid form, and vitamin C in its fat-soluble form. And those are the only three things you really need to have beautiful skin from a topical perspective. Now, internally, which I've always said is the most important, you got to have good food. You got to have a good digestive system to be able to process that food, and you got to have good nutrition. You have to have food that's loaded with nutrients and or probably both nutritional supplementation. That's important because most of the nutrients that are coming to the skin cells are coming in through the bloodstream via the digestive system. So that's number one. But topically, vitamin A in its retinol form, fat-soluble vitamin C, alpha hydroxy acids, give your skin a chance to rest from the exercise, from the acids, like maybe every other day kind of thing, or once a week, or twice a week, or 5 times a week. You have to determine how much stress or how much exercise or how much acidic action you want on the surface of the skin. But that's it. I call it exerrest because it's exercise and rest and nutrition. Topically, vitamin A and C. Internally, the mighty 90 essential nutrients, which are all the vitamins, minerals, fatty acids, and amino acids, in addition to quality proteins, quality fats, and quality carbohydrates. And that's it.
Awesome. That's a fantastic breakdown. Like, you just broke it down so clearly. And I love that, because it is really simple. And I love that you brought up the latest thing for the rainforest, because as you know, I live in Ecuador now, and here I am right on the border of the Amazon. I'm right on the border of it.
There are wonderful things in plants. I used to have a pharmacy where I tinctured herbs, and we kept all kinds of Damiana and Vitex and Dong Quai and all these various herbs in tinctures, and I would do herbal medicine. But really, for the skin, it's very, very simple. It's quality nutrition internally. It's stimulating with alpha hydroxy acids and driving in retinol and fat-soluble vitamin C, or sometimes retinoic acid if you want to go by prescription.
So I want you to break this down a little bit more for us. I love keeping it basic, but I also think concentration levels is a very key component of some of these things. So let's hit, I mean, you hit on the top ones, right? Which are on my list too: retinol, vitamin C, and alpha hydroxy acid. So let's hit a bit on, so we've got about, like, 6 or 7 minutes left, is hit on concentrate, because again, back to the idea of science washing and the savvy consumer, where I really want people to learn, okay, just because it says it has retinol, that doesn't mean anything. You got to know how much retinol, and it shouldn't be a lot of retinol, because retinol causes irritation. So why don't you hit on some of those things?
Okay, in pharmacy, we have a saying: the dose makes the medicine. So it's not just the ingredient, but how much of the ingredient that's in the product that's going to be important. And not all certain ingredients have a limit on how much you want to use. So for example, with vitamin C, fat-soluble vitamin C, you need a lot of it. In fact, my Truth Transdermal C serum, my Truth Transdermal C balm, we got over 60%, over 70% fat-soluble vitamins. There you go.
Love it.
That's vitamin C. And I realized this because when I was in my pharmacy, I would just go right to the vitamin C, at the fat-soluble vitamin C, and I would put a little transdermal penetrant. I always mix my fat-soluble vitamin C with transdermal ingredients, that is, ingredients that can drive or carry the vitamin C to the bottom of the skin, where the skin cells are. And that's all I did. I didn't use water. I didn't use silicone. I didn't use emulsifiers. I didn't use vegetable oil or preservatives. I just had 2 basic compartments to my product, and 2 basic substances, which are transdermal penetrants and fat-soluble vitamin C. So you want high concentrations of fat-soluble vitamin C. The more you have, the better. So we have over 60%, over 70%. Retinol is a little different, because retinol is extremely stimulating for the skin. Retinol turns on the production of proteins and protein fibers, protein synthesis. Plus, retinol turns on the production of things like high hyaluronic acid. They're going to be important for connective tissue building and for the strength of the dermis. And retinol, which is pre-vitamin A, also stabilizes the growth of skin cells. So it's a very activating substance. And you don't want to have too much, but you want to have enough. So for retinol, you want to look for anywhere from 1 to 5%. The reason this is important is because it's very rare to find these kinds of concentrations in products. The reason I use those high concentrations is because I'm working out of a pharmacy. So I'm working with people who are compromised, who have a certain skin health challenges that we're trying to address. And as I say, the dose makes the medicine. So I developed these products in the pharmacy, and all of my formulations, all of my basic formulations, were all developed on a prescription basis in the pharmacy. And I thought, after doing it for a while, I said, why am I just doing this for my patients? I can also do it for other savvy consumers. So I took these high concentrations of active ingredients and I put them in products that are available to consumers. With retinol, you want 1 to 5%. Most retinol-containing products are 0.1 to 0.5%, sometimes even less than that. So that's a trace amount. And don't be fooled, the consumer that I'm speaking to now, don't be fooled by just the word retinol on the ingredient deck or the word retinol on the label. You want to know how much is in there. And the company doesn't tell you how much is in there. They don't want you to know. With vitamin C, is the same thing. Don't be fooled by the word vitamin C. Find out how much vitamin C is in that product. And don't be fooled by the wrong form of vitamin C. For example, with vitamin C, we know that there's a water-soluble form and there's a fat-soluble form. Water-soluble ingredients sit on the surface of the skin because the skin, I don't know if you can see this, the skin is a barrier to water. Water doesn't penetrate. I don't know if you can see that. Water just slides right off your skin. So watery ingredients, water-soluble ingredients, which include ascorbic acid, water-soluble vitamin C, don't penetrate, which is why I only use fat-soluble vitamin C, which penetrates. So don't be fooled by, number one, the word vitamin C on the label. Ask or do research on how much vitamin C is in the product. And don't be fooled by the wrong form of vitamin C. With retinol, there's also a form issue in the sense that retinol is vitamin A, and there's different forms of vitamin A. Right. So one form of vitamin A, which you and I have talked about, is retinol palmitate. You're not going to get much vitamin A activity out of that. Another form of vitamin A is retinaldehyde. Again, you're not going to get much activity out of that, and that's not going to be in a product in very high concentrations. In fact, retinaldehyde is one of the sneakiest ingredients, sneakiest science washing ingredients, because while retinaldehyde does have some activity, it's very unstable, and it's not going to be in a skincare product in very high concentrations. So most retinaldehyde containing products have an unknown quantity or an unknown concentration because companies don't want to reveal how little they have in there. So you don't want to be fooled by that. When it comes to vitamin A, it's either retinol or retinoic acid. Retinoic acid, if you want to go to the doctor and get a prescription, that's really the active form of vitamin A. Retinol, which is a precursor to retinoic acid, and that's available over the counter. Look for, in my opinion, you want to look for 1 to 5% concentrations. And we sell 1 to 5%, although we also have a training wheels version of retinol, which I call a kind of a beginner's retinol. And that's less, that's a 0.3%, but that's a beginner type retinol. If you really want the good retinol benefits, you want to go to 1% or 5%. Or between 1% and 5%.
So hit on what are the types, what is the term of the vitamin C that is fat soluble? What are the terms they need to look for?
There's a couple important ones. The most important one, and probably the most powerful one, is also the most expensive one. And just to give you an idea, by the way, it's called the acronym is THDA, which stands for tetrahexyl decyl ascorbate. So that's a mouthful. So most people say THDA. So THDA is the most powerful form of fat-soluble vitamin C. It's the most powerful form of vitamin C there is. It penetrates, it's soothing, it doesn't break down like ascorbic acid does. You can put it right on cuts and scrapes, which you can't do with ascorbic acid. And this is the reason why you don't see a lot of THDA, or if you see THDA, it's in small concentrations. Ascorbic acid costs maybe $10 for a kilogram. THDA costs $800 for a kilogram. Wow. So the fat solubility, which renders it incredibly stable, incredibly effective in terms of penetration and soothing and healing, also makes it very expensive. But you know what? It's worth it. It's well worth it. And then also there's a second form, which is less expensive, but a little bit harder to work with. And that's called ascorbyl palmitate. Right. And those are the two most important fat soluble forms of vitamin C. And those are what you want to look for. You're not going to see you're not going to see any products that have enough ascorbyl palmitate. Most products that contain ascorbyl palmitate just have a trace of it because it's very difficult to work with. One of the things I figured out how to do in my pharmacy was I figured out how to get high concentrations of ascorbyl palmitate into a product, and that's my omega-6 healing cream. And if you ever use my omega-6 healing cream, you know that it is an incredible healing product for healing cuts, scrapes, and post-peel. And I actually developed it as a burn cream. And the reason it's so effective is because it's loaded with this form of fat-soluble vitamin C called ascorbyl palmitate. It is heavy. Ascorbyl palmitate has a very heavy quality to it, but it's incredibly soothing and healing. THDA is not as heavy and has the same amount of healing powers, but it's also quite expensive. So I think it's well worth it. People are spending a lot of money on products anyway. The products that are water. Our transdermal C serum that you have there's no water in there. You only use 1 or 2 drops of it. And on top of all that, you're getting almost 80% fat-soluble vitamin C, which is pretty incredible.
Right. And that's why people see a difference so quickly. I mean, everybody that you see a difference I saw a difference within a couple of days, I would say, but I think on average it's probably 1 to 2 weeks, but I mean,
even less. If you depends on how your skin is. The worse your skin is, the faster you're going to notice it. Your skin's beautiful, so it's going to take you a little bit longer. But if somebody has unhealthy skin, they'll notice the results in a day.
Right.
And some people will notice results right when they put the skin product on the skin. They'll see a sort of glow to the skin, much like when I don't know if you ever watered a plant you forget to water your plants for a week and then you water them, you can almost see your plant
Right.
kind of blossoming in front of your eyes. That's kind of what happens with a lot of skin types that use Truth Transdermal C serum right away.
Right. I totally agree. And when people start using great ingredients, they really do. It really makes such a huge difference. And personally, I think, if you're going to invest in these ingredients that we're hitting on right now, the retinol, the vitamin C, and the AHA. Those are the things that really make a bang for buck, like the biggest impact on the skin. So
Yes.
absolutely. All right, great. So we're out of time. Thank you so much, Ben. This has been a great breakdown of, skin especially, but also kind of back to the subject at hand is the idea that, really look for these key components and these key ingredients. So I'm speaking to the audience now, but I really, really take to heart what Ben said. I want so much for all of you to, when you shop, to know what you're shopping for, to know what you're looking for, so you can make great decisions and not be blown over by false claims of science washing, my new favorite word. All right. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for joining me today on The Beauty Shaman. And thank you so much, ladies, for joining us as well. And stay tuned. We have part 2, another interview coming with Ben. And again, we will be chatting every month, which will be wonderful. All right. Thanks for watching The Beauty Shaman.